In this episode, we are moving into one of the most practical ideas in the entire system's lifecycle because it explains how organizations keep important technology work from turning into expensive confusion. Project governance and management are the structures and day-to-day practices that help a project stay aligned to business goals, move through decisions in an orderly way, and reach implementation without losing control of cost, timing, scope, quality, or risk. For a beginner, the simplest way to think about this is to imagine a company trying to introduce a new system while many different people want different things from it. Different teams are doing different pieces of work, and leadership expects progress without surprises. That environment can become chaotic very quickly if nobody is clearly in charge of decisions, priorities, approvals, and oversight. Good governance and management create the discipline that holds the whole effort together. Without that discipline, even a promising project can drift off course, consume more resources than expected, and still produce a weak result at the end. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyberauthor.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A helpful starting point is to understand what a project actually is, because learners sometimes confuse projects with routine operations. A project is a temporary effort created to achieve a specific objective, such as implementing a new application, replacing an old platform, improving a business process, or introducing a major system enhancement. It has a beginning, a defined purpose, and an expected end, even if the system it produces will be used for many years afterward. Routine operations, by contrast, are ongoing activities like supporting users, maintaining systems, and monitoring daily service performance. Project governance and management matter because project work introduces change, and change creates uncertainty. Whenever an organization changes systems, processes, or technology dependencies, it must coordinate people, funding, time, risk decisions, and business expectations in a disciplined way. That is why projects need more than technical effort alone. They need a framework for direction and control so the organization can change deliberately rather than by improvisation. One of the most important distinctions in this topic is the difference between project governance and project management, because the two ideas are closely connected but not identical. Project governance is the higher-level structure that defines authority, accountability, decision rights, oversight, and alignment with organizational objectives. Project management is the operational discipline of planning, coordinating, tracking, and guiding the work day by day so the project can move toward its goals. A beginner can think of governance as the system that answers who decides, who approves, who is responsible, and how the project is kept aligned with business needs. Management then answers what work is happening now, who is doing it, what problems have appeared, what deadlines matter next, and how progress is being controlled. When governance is weak, project managers may be left trying to solve issues that really need executive decisions. When management is weak, good governance on paper still does not produce timely, organized, and effective delivery. Every strong project begins with a clear business reason, because technology work should not exist just to keep technical teams busy or to chase a trend. An organization should understand what problem it is trying to solve, what opportunity it is trying to capture, what benefits it expects, and why the timing makes sense. This business foundation helps the project stay grounded when scope pressure, cost concerns, or competing stakeholder demands begin to appear later. If nobody can clearly explain why the project exists, the effort becomes vulnerable to drift because every requested feature or opinion can start to seem equally important. Governance is what keeps the project tied to the original business objective instead of allowing it to become a collection of loosely related tasks. Management supports that same goal by turning the business need into organized work, milestones, responsibilities, and measurable progress. Beginners should remember that a project without a clear purpose is already at risk before the first technical activity begins. Sponsorship is another essential part of project governance because projects need visible support from someone with enough authority to remove obstacles, make decisions, and represent the business interest behind the work. The sponsor is often a senior leader who supports the project, secures commitment, and helps resolve problems that cannot be handled at the working team level. Without an active sponsor, teams may struggle to gain decisions on budget, scope, priority, staffing, or risk acceptance. That can slow progress and create confusion about whether the project truly matters to the organization. Sponsorship is not just ceremonial approval at the start. It is ongoing engagement that helps keep the project aligned with strategic needs and gives the team a path for escalation when major issues arise. For a beginner, this is an important lesson because successful projects are rarely powered by technical effort alone. They usually depend on leadership involvement that is clear enough to give the project direction, protection, and organizational legitimacy. Roles and responsibilities must also be defined clearly, because projects bring together people from different functions who may have very different expectations, vocabulary, and priorities. Business users may focus on outcomes and usability. Technical teams may focus on design and delivery. Security staff may focus on controls and risk, and leadership may focus on timing, cost, and return on investment. If responsibilities are vague, work may be duplicated, ignored, or delayed because people assume someone else is handling it. Good governance clarifies who owns key decisions, who approves changes, who provides subject matter expertise, who validates requirements, who manages risks, and who accepts deliverables. Good management then keeps those roles active through planning meetings, reporting cycles, issue resolution, and coordinated execution. This clarity matters especially during periods of stress, because projects reveal confusion most sharply when deadlines tighten or problems emerge. Clearly assigned responsibility helps the team avoid blame shifting and instead concentrate on solving the issue with the right people involved at the right time. Scope is one of the most sensitive areas in any project because it defines what the project is supposed to deliver and, just as importantly, what it is not supposed to deliver. Beginners often assume more features or more work automatically make a project more successful, but uncontrolled expansion usually creates delay, complexity, cost growth, and quality problems. Project governance helps protect scope by requiring that changes be reviewed and approved rather than added casually because someone requested them in a meeting. Project management turns that discipline into practice by documenting requirements, comparing requests to the agreed objective, estimating impact, and keeping the team focused on what must be delivered first. This matters because many failed projects did not collapse from one dramatic mistake. They slowly weakened as new requests, assumptions, and side goals kept being added without enough analysis or prioritization. Good scope control does not mean refusing every change. It means making sure changes are deliberate, understood, and compatible with the project's purpose, resources, and timeline. Planning is where the project begins to move from intention into organized action, and this stage is more than simply creating a schedule. Good planning considers work breakdown, sequencing, dependencies, staffing, resource limits, budget expectations, control points, communication needs, and the practical conditions required for success. A plan helps the team see which tasks depend on others, where delays are most likely to hurt, and what readiness is needed before the next stage can begin. Beginners sometimes imagine project plans as stiff documents that become outdated immediately, but the deeper purpose of planning is to create shared understanding. It gives stakeholders a realistic picture of the path ahead and helps management identify where risk or pressure is building. Good governance supports planning by requiring realistic commitments instead of optimistic promises designed only to gain approval. Good management keeps the plan alive by updating it, using it to guide decisions, and adjusting it carefully when conditions change rather than pretending the original timeline can never be questioned. Risk management is woven into project work because every major change introduces uncertainty, and the organization must decide which uncertainties are acceptable and which require action. Project risks can include funding shortfalls, unclear requirements, vendor delays, staffing changes, weak testing, unrealistic timelines, security concerns, regulatory problems, and user resistance to the final solution. Governance matters here because some risks require leadership attention or explicit acceptance, especially when they could affect business operations or control effectiveness. Management matters because risks have to be identified early, tracked, discussed, and addressed before they become actual project failures. A beginner should understand that risk management is not about predicting every possible bad event with perfect accuracy. It is about creating enough visibility and discipline that the team is not surprised by predictable trouble it ignored. Closely related ideas include issue management for problems already occurring and change management for project modifications that may alter scope, time, or cost. Together, these practices help the project stay controlled even when the environment becomes less predictable. Communication is another core part of project governance and management because technology projects often fail not from a lack of effort, but from a lack of shared understanding. Different audiences need different information, and a project that communicates poorly can look healthy to leadership, while daily confusion is spreading among the working teams. Governance should define who needs what information, how often reporting should occur, which decisions require escalation, and how status will be reviewed. Management then carries that into practice through status reports, meetings, issue logs, milestone reviews, and direct coordination among stakeholders. Good communication does not mean flooding everyone with data. It means giving the right people timely, relevant information that helps them understand progress, problems, trade-offs, and upcoming decisions. When communication is weak, assumptions grow in the empty space. That often leads to missed expectations, delayed approvals, and frustration near implementation when stakeholders suddenly realize they understood the project very differently from one another. Quality must be protected throughout the life of the project, because finishing on time means little if the result is unstable, insecure, or misaligned with business need. Project governance supports quality by requiring standards, review points, approval criteria, and accountability for whether the solution is actually ready. Project management supports quality by making sure documentation, testing, defect handling, and readiness activities are not pushed aside whenever schedule pressure increases. This is especially important in technology projects because there is often strong pressure to show visible progress, even if the underlying work has not been validated properly. A team may be tempted to say the system is nearly done when testing has been shallow, training is incomplete, or control design still has gaps. Good project discipline resists that temptation. It treats quality as part of delivery rather than as an optional extra to be revisited later. Beginners should see this clearly because many project disappointments occur when speed is celebrated early and rework takes over later. Control considerations are also important because system projects should not wait until the end to think about access, security, logging, approvals, separation of duties, data handling, and recovery needs. If a project is building or acquiring a system that will affect important business activity, then control design should be part of the project from the beginning. Governance helps by making sure control expectations are included in oversight and not treated as someone else's late-stage concern. Management helps by coordinating with security, audit, compliance, and operational stakeholders so the solution is built with the right safeguards in mind. For a CISA learner, this is one of the most valuable ways to think about project work. A project is not successful simply because the system functions. It is successful when the system functions in a way the organization can trust, support, govern, and audit. That mindset helps explain why project governance and management are not only delivery disciplines, but also control disciplines. Monitoring project progress is necessary because no project remains healthy simply because the initial plan looked good. Teams need to know whether milestones are being met, whether costs are staying within expectations, whether risks are increasing, whether dependencies are slipping, and whether the project is still aligned with the original business goal. Governance provides the structure for review through steering groups, sponsor oversight, or formal checkpoints. Management provides the detailed tracking through schedules, status reporting, issue management, budget review, and coordination across teams. A beginner should notice that progress monitoring is not about constant pressure for faster work. It is about visibility and informed action. If a project is slipping, leadership needs to know early enough to make realistic decisions rather than discovering the truth only when the promised deadline has already passed. Honest monitoring is a sign of maturity because it allows the organization to correct course instead of hiding problems until choices become much harder and more expensive. There are also common failure patterns that make this topic easier to remember because they show what weak governance and weak management look like in real life. Projects often struggle when sponsorship is passive, requirements are unclear, scope expands without discipline, reporting is overly optimistic, or teams treat testing and user readiness as secondary concerns. Another common misconception is that strong project management can compensate for missing governance. But in practice, even a skilled manager cannot resolve major conflicts without authority and executive backing. The opposite misconception is also dangerous, because formal governance structures alone do not ensure success if daily planning, coordination, and communication are poor. From an audit perspective, these weaknesses matter because they often lead to cost overruns, missed deadlines, control gaps, implementation problems, and systems that fail to deliver expected value. Evidence of healthy governance and management might include approved charters, defined roles, risk logs, status reporting, change approvals, steering review records, testing results, and documented decisions. All of that helps show whether the project is being directed responsibly or merely pushed forward through momentum. The central idea should feel much more grounded. Project governance and management are the structures and practices that help an organization guide technology change responsibly, keep projects aligned with business purpose, and make sound decisions as work moves from planning into delivery and implementation. They matter because large system efforts involve many moving parts, many competing expectations, and many opportunities for small problems to grow into major failures if oversight and coordination are weak. The strongest projects are not the ones that simply move fast or produce the most excitement in presentations. They are the ones that maintain clear accountability, realistic planning, disciplined communication, honest reporting, and steady attention to quality, risk, and control. If you keep that picture in mind, this topic becomes easier to understand because it stops feeling like abstract management language and starts looking like the practical framework that keeps important projects from losing their way. That is exactly why project governance and management sit so close to the center of successful information systems work.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.